Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sam Learning's Successful Personalised Learning webinar. We will be beginning in approximately 1 minute, so we're going to start at 10 AM prompt. You will notice down the right-hand side of the screen, there's a control panel, which I'll run through in a moment with you. And on the control panel, you will find in the handout section, 3 handouts from us today. You've got our Fisher Family Trust report, outlining how Sam Learning's proven to improve. You've also got the Sam Learning brochure, which will give you an introduction to Sam Learning for those of you who are unfamiliar with what we do. And you also have our introductory video. It's roughly 5 minutes long, 4 to 5 minutes long, and it just gives you a whistle-stop introduction to Sam Learning. So I will allow some time at the end of the webinar for you to download those resources and to have a look at our introductory video. Okay, so I make it approximately 10 AM, so I'm going to begin. So for those of you who have just arrived, welcome to the latest Sam Learning webinar. Today we're going to focus on how your school can level up your provision for personalised learning. My name is Stephanie King and I am the Commercial Director here at Sam Learning, and I'm joined by our Regional Director, Craig Hendleman, who, time permitting, will be taking questions at the end of today's session. This is an open forum and a safe space, so please do feel free to ask any questions that you may have. To do so, click on the orange arrow on the control bar on the right-hand side of your screen, which is found there, and type your question into the questions box. Now it looks like everyone has arrived. We're now going to begin. So we here at Sam Learning are huge fans and advocates of personalised learning. We love that it normally involves students in deciding their own learning process, and this teaches your students vital skills that will serve them throughout their lives. For example, sharing and goal setting helps students develop motivation and reliability. Engaging in self-assessment helps students develop self-reflective abilities. And determining their best learning style helps students develop self-advocacy skills. In fact, there are numerous studies from around the globe that show students attending schools with strong plans in place for personalised learning made gains over the last 2 years that are significantly greater than a virtual control group made up of similar students selected from comparable schools. Another fantastic thing to consider with personalised learning is that in using it successfully, students with specific weaknesses are able to learn without any stigma around special educational needs. When schools implement a personalised learning programme, the method and speed of learning can vary for each student. However, the end goal and academic standards don't differ. Each student must reach a certain mastery level of the topic by the end of the unit or school year. But I first want to run a number by you. 8,819,765. That is how many students we currently have studying in English schools, either on-site or virtually right now. So here's a question to consider. Does that mean in order to successfully deliver successful personalised learning, we need to be prepared to come to terms with the fact that there are almost 9 million learning styles? Well, no, but also yes. And I generally feel comfortable suggesting things that are contradictory to one another as long as I have some form of know-how or scientific evidence to back me up. So let's start this webinar with something that I believe we can all agree on. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to learning that every learner will take to. That would be impossible, and any system or provider that preaches otherwise would struggle to capture my attention for more than a few moments. What we can agree on is that in terms of learning style, we can start to take that number of almost 9 million and take it right down to a much more manageable number of 7 or a combination of 2 or more of the 7. Those are verbal, visual, musical or auditory, physical or kinesthetic, logical or mathematical, social, and solitary. So let's explore those briefly. Verbal. Verbal learners, also known as linguistic learners, learn best through the written and spoken word. Learners of this style enjoy language, reading, and writing. Visual. Visual learners prefer the use of images, maps, and graphic organisers to access and understand new information. They tend to learn seeing information delivered through pictures, video, or other type of graphic presentation. Auditory. Auditory learners best understand content through listening and speaking in situations such as lectures and group discussions, or via audiobooks or podcasts. Kinesthetic. Students who are kinesthetic learners best understand information through tactile representations of information. They are hands-on learners and learn best by figuring things out by hand. Logical. Logical learners rely on logic and reasoning to make sense of the information they receive. A logical learner will enjoy working through problems, understanding cause and effect. Social. Social learners or interpersonal learners enjoy working in groups. These type of learners thrive on sharing ideas and hearing the suggestions of others. Solitary. Opposed to social learners, we also have solitary learners, also known as intrapersonal learners. These type of learners need quiet time alone in order to best process information and grasp concepts. Rather than thrive in a group, this type of learner may find themselves overwhelmed or distracted in a group setting. So while we can all agree on the styles of learning that generally cover all of your students, we then have the absolute joy as teachers of finding ways to engage each and every student of every learning style in the same lesson. And that seems like a daunting task. But it doesn't have to be. You see, we at Sam Learning realised some time ago of the difficulties faced by teachers when it comes to personalised learning, simply because of the limited amount of time in the day in which to meet every one of their daily responsibilities. I truly believe that every teacher, given enough time, would create personalised learning plans for all students under their tutelage, followed by bespoke lessons, hand-picked differentiated activities and homework. But time is a cruel mistress who slows down for no one. Luckily, the technology available at schools right now, such as that provided by Sam Learning, allows your teachers to do a variety of wonderful and highly effective things to personalise learning to each student without negatively impacting their workload. In fact, quite the opposite. Over the last 25 years, there have been a number of reasons why schools have chosen to use Sam Learning at their school. And in a recent survey of subscribers, the ability to easily provide personalised learning for every learner came very close to being at the top of the list. You see, Sam Learning is the ultimate toolbox for education, full of easy to handle, versatile instruments that do their main function of engaging online learning and self-marked homework incredibly well, but then based on the scenario you were faced with, from that very same toolbox, you can pull out an intervention and differentiation tool or a virtual learning system. You could dig a little deeper and find a flipped classroom option, targeted intervention content, or as mentioned earlier, an extremely powerful personalised learning tool. So what sort of personalised learning experience can you offer your learners through Sam Learning? Let's take a scenario. You are a history teacher, teaching your Year 9 students about conflict and the making of the modern world. And this particular lesson is going to be covering the Battle of Falkirk. You have a responsibility to create a series of engaging lessons for every learning style in your classroom. A great way of taking control of that is by using Sam Learning's Activity Builder to build bespoke activities targeting as many learning styles as possible. For example, By putting rich content into your activity, you could insert a podcast for your auditory learners, followed by a YouTube video for your visual learners, such as a clip from Braveheart, and subsequent questions on what was and was not historically accurate. You could set work for certain groups of students to work together as a team for your social learners, or set individual activities for the ones who like to learn solitary. You can even look to implement popular fiction into your activities. Movies in the Marvel series, for example, have so much potential for learning. You can learn about World War II in Captain America, and STEM in Iron Man. You can learn about physics and chemistry in Spider-Man, and parts of the Hulk would make for a great PSHE lesson around anger management. Another option that is a huge topic point at the moment, and rightly so, around the Black Lives Matter movement can be taught using the Marvel movie Black Panther to discuss racial inequality and discrimination. Such films and your students' enthusiasm for the fictional Wakanda can support deeper study and appreciation of African and diasporic cultures. There are so many different and amazing ways to engage your learners through our activity builder, and the limits really are only defined by the limits of your imagination. And the good news doesn't stop there either. As well as giving your teachers the tools to easily create personalised learning activities, saving them precious time, we actually go one step further and reward them financially for doing so. In fact, every single teacher that publishes their first 5 activities on Sam Learning will receive a £20 Amazon voucher. And there are numerous ways to make even more money through Sam Learning simply by publishing different activities or bundles of activities through the year. So here are our 3 top tips for successful personalised learning on top of what we've already discussed. Make sure that your teachers have the resources to assess all learners and then tailor their learning experience accordingly. While personalised learning is mainly focused around teacher-led instruction, make sure that you are using proven EdTech to create the perfect personalised learning environment. Let your students play part in their own learning experience. Give them the choice between reading a story or listening to an audio version or video, and also how they record their notes either on paper, via voice recorder, or online. Having worked directly with schools for a number of years and through a number of challenges, I'm sure, as you would imagine, we have quite a number of schools that are happy to sing our praises to other schools when they feel Sam Learning can make a similar impact in their school. One of those schools who we are delighted to introduce you to today is George Pinder in Scarborough, and Natasha Koval-Meth, the Associate Assistant Vice Principal for Pupil Premium, joins us today to discuss how they successfully deliver outstanding personalised learning. So good morning, Natasha, welcome. And just to begin, for the benefit of our attendees here today, could you just please give us an overview of your school, its size, and the context of your learners?
Yes, of course. Good morning. So our school is a comprehensive secondary school. It is smaller than usual. We have 650 students, and it serves a very deprived area in Scarborough. We have 42% of students who are eligible for pupil premium grant. Now, on top of that, we have 33% of our year 7 students this year who did not achieve a scaled score of 100 in mathematics at Key Stage 2. From the same cohort, we have 43% who did not achieve a scaled score of 100 or more in reading. So on the crossover of those two groups, we have 42 students who are below expected standards in both maths and English. We also have an issue with attendance, and our overall attendance as a school is significantly below national average at the moment.
And could you give us a little insight into your school's personalised learning strategy?
Yes, because of the difficult tapestry of our school, we have different strands within our personalised learning strategy. So we have the following groups of students that we distinguish within our schools and then work with. So year 7, as I mentioned, is students who are below standard on entry. Then we have groups with attendance 90% and below as a focus group. We also have obviously individual catch-up group, for example, following parents' evening, phone calls home, or just a parental request and so on. Our year 11, we had a huge drive and we built a flywheel group. So those were the students most at risk of underachieving. Then a lot of departments set up their own booster groups for their students, especially at Key Stage 4. And then we have the group of students with behavioural issues as well.
And how does Sam Learning fit into this strategy?
So, for example, with a year 7 who are below standard on entry, they form, some of those students obviously are in our nurture groups. And it is exceptionally beneficial for us to have access to Key Stage 2 Sam Learning tasks and to be able to find work which suits the students and brings them up to standard and then allows them to access Key Stage 3 as well. So Key Stage 2 Sam Learning, especially at the beginning of the year, forms a very important part of our extra numeracy and literacy provision for those students. So with attendance, we have created designated attendance focused groups on Sam Learning. So the way we use this, teachers set catch-up work for the students to complete at home when they are not in school, especially for those students, as I said, with attendance of 90% and below. So also then we can contact parents, we can inform them about the work, and we can easily check if the work has been completed. Also following parents' evening telephone conversations with parents, we set specific learning tasks on Sam Learning for individual students, and that is absolutely brilliant because it can be done quickly and it's very, very effective. Parents like it, the students like it, and it's very easy for our teachers to check the completion of tasks as well. Now, as I mentioned, we use Sam Learning to support our year 11 students as well, and those were our key year 11 students who were most at risk of missing their targets at the end of year 11. So we piloted what we called the flywheel group this year, and all departments were expected to set extra work on Sam Learning. Those were revision tasks for the flywheel group students. Now, the completion of those tasks was closely monitored, and that was absolutely key. And the other part of the jigsaw is making sure we kept the parents informed every step of the way about the rate of completion and the effort put into completing those tasks on Sam Learning. And that made a huge difference for our students. And parents also value the support greatly. Now, we have also started using Sam Learning as a homework tool for Key Stage 3 students. So it makes it exceptionally easy to set personalized differentiated homework tasks for our students, which is a huge bonus. Because as we all know, homework is brilliant, but some of the students it's too easy for them, and for some of them it's too difficult. So using Sam Learning took that barrier away. We also use Sam Learning for our after-school detentions. Now, it broke my heart every single time I was doing detentions and I was looking at the students absolutely wasting their time and falling even further and further behind compared to their peers. So we have timetabled our detentions into computer rooms, and all students attending a detention are expected to complete their work on Sam Learning. So obviously then it turns that time of a detention into something they can make the most of, obviously if they choose to do so, but the opportunity is there and it makes a huge difference for some of them.
Fantastic. And what has been the impact of using Sam Learning as part of your personalised learning strategy?
Well, it's absolutely brilliant to see that our students are really highly motivated to become Sam Learning champions. They're competitive, they strive to be top of the leaderboards, so we have leaderboards every week, and we split those into a whole year group leaderboard and then individual leaderboards. There is real excitement, there is competitive spirit within the school, and we have regular award ceremonies. We have tablet computer draws to support student engagement, and the drive the success of personalized learning with using Sam in every aspect of our school life.
As well as Sam Learning, what other resources do you have to help with your personalised learning?
So we use specifically for maths, for example, we use Maths Watch. We use START program or platform for careers. We also use GCSE Pod in the past, and we have My Maths available as well.
And what steps would you suggest to a school who's looking to improve their personalised learning offering?
So if you're looking as a school to improve your students' personalized learning experience, it is absolutely great to give students access to an online platform like Sam Learning. It is great because you can use it at school, you can use it at home, regardless of the approach or online resource which you do choose in the end. We found at George Pringle School that the most important part of its success is in its sustainability. It is absolutely vital to see it through. So whatever you implement, you need to see it through. You need to have a designated person who drives that platform, that personalized learning experience, and who is absolutely responsible for the initiative and looks after it on the whole school level.
And finally, could you tell us an occasion that you were particularly proud of where you've seen firsthand the great impact of successful personalised learning for one of your students?
Yes, and I really did, and that absolutely made my week last week. So one of my year 8 students, who was not usually displaying the right attitude to learning in class, shall we say, he emailed me at the start of lockdown asking for some extra work on Sam Learning. So obviously I sent him extra work. I kept sending him encouraging emails. And since then, he has been contacting me on a regular basis. However, when I called home last week to speak to his parents, just as part of our keep in touch policy, his mother was absolutely delighted. She was so pleased with his progress. She couldn't believe it, just how much potential he has displayed when completing his Sam Learning tasks, how engaged he was, how motivated he was. She was absolutely singing praises to the school, to her son, obviously, and to Sam Learning, which was lovely to hear. And it's just such a success story for the Years 8 students and for us at the school, and for obviously Sam Learning as a personalised learning programme.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And for anybody who would like to get in touch with Natasha directly, please either let us know in the chat or email me after the webinar today, and I'm sure we'll be able to get that arranged for you. It's fantastic to hear the success that Natasha's currently having using Sam Learning to support with our school's personalised learning strategies. At this time, I'd also like to take the opportunity to introduce you to our latest short video, welcoming you to Sam Learning. You will find this in the handout section on the right-hand side of your screen under the control panel. So please do take 5 minutes after this webinar, should you wish to learn a little bit more about Sam Learning's award-winning content. You'll also find there our latest brochure and our Fisher Family Trust Impact Report, which demonstrates the positive impact Sam Learning can have on your student outcomes, and particularly those students who are from disadvantaged backgrounds. I do want to stress Sam Learning is proven to improve. That's what makes us unique on the market. We're now going to be holding a quick Q&A session around the questions that you have asked throughout today's webinar. And we'll also be more than happy to arrange a virtual demonstration specific to your school at a later date, either with myself or Craig. So please do feel free to get in touch via phone or email on the details I will be providing shortly, and also in your webinar packs. Okay, so Craig, over to you. How's the question panel looking this morning?
Thank you, Steph. It's looking really busy. We've had loads of requests to book demonstrations, which is fantastic, and some really good questions too. Looking at time, and I'm keen to keep this webinar under half an hour. I'll only get a chance to answer 1 or 2 of the great questions that we had. But as ever, if your question isn't answered now, either myself or Stephanie will get back to you shortly after the webinar finishes. So the first question that really jumped out at me was from Nick, and Nick asked, how can Sam Learning be used to personalise learning for my more hands-on students? Thanks, Nick. It's a great question, and it's one that really resonates quite strongly with me. I mean, back in my school days, I was, and I guess I still am, a kinesthetic learner. Now, given your question some considerable thought in the time that you asked it towards the beginning of the webinar, I've put my educator's hat on as well as my kinesthetic cap. And essentially the answer to your question is that for kinesthetic learners especially, personalized and blended learning intertwine perfectly, and there are numerous ways that you can deliver on this. For example, if we take the example that we put before of the history teacher that we mentioned teaching his students about the Battle of Falkirk, how about for your kinesthetic learners, you could have things like replicas of the weapons used, safe ones, of course, but to teach them how the longbow was a significant instrument in the success of the English army, in comparison to the smaller bows belonging to the Scottish that just didn't have the range to compete. You can then use SAM learning to measure that comprehension of why the English were able to make better weapons, or why the English decided not to charge in and fight the Scots, who were in really tightly packed schildrons with long pikes. Again, that's just one option, but the solutions to this question are many, and again, are only limited by the imagination of a teacher. Thank you. So another great question we had was from Jennifer, and Jennifer said, you mentioned that we should be looking at proven edtech. Can you clarify that for me, please? Thank you, Jennifer, and yes, absolutely. You see, and forgive me firstly for going all greatest showman on you all, but it should never be enough for every provider to simply tell you that their system works and that you should just trust in their process. It should be common practice for any provider that wants to use the word proven to provide independent study, at least on the efficacy of their product and the impact that it will have on your students. For example, if we look at a 10-year series of impact studies by the Fisher Family Trust, they show real impact on progress, especially at GCSE by students with just 10 task hours use of SAM learning. And that is the sort of proven evidence schools should be absolutely resolute on receiving before signing on any dotted line. Okay, thank you both for your questions. And as promised, I am keeping an eye on time, trying to keep this less than half an hour. So I'll stop there, but I absolutely acknowledge there are loads more questions I need to get through, and we'll get to those, get around to those straight after today's webinar ends. Thank you, Stephanie. Back to you.
Thank you, Craig. And that, I believe, brings us to the end of our webinar. So I do hope that you've all enjoyed it as much as we have presenting it. Our education webinars have proven ever so popular since their launch. Therefore, we are going to continue to hold these on topics of your choice moving forward. On that note, we are holding our next MAT Leaders Forum. So this will be the second one in the series so far. That will be held on the 7th of July at 10 AM and again at 3 PM, followed by Closing the Gap, where we will go on a deep dive into the world of SAM learning and how it will help you narrow and close attainment gaps effectively. And that will be on the 14th of July, again at 10 AM and 3 PM. So if you haven't already, do not miss out. Register for your space today. All the links are going to be available on the follow-up email that you will receive following today's event. Should you have any special topic requests that you would like to see in the future for myself and Craig to do a webinar on, please post your suggestions in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We are here to help our educators, and we want to provide you as much as we possibly can to provide a launch pad for career in life. So please do put your suggestions forward. I'm now going to leave you to watch our video and to download our brochures, which we've provided in the handout section of your control panel. So you'll find that on the right-hand side of the screen. So I'm going to leave the webinar on for another 5 minutes. So take the time to top up your coffee, watch our video, and we want to wish you all the very best in these strange times, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you and speaking to you again soon. Thank you.